Okay, so what's up, Biggums? Just doing a replay review, kind of giving my thoughts on what I would be thinking in your spot. I will say that I did look at the games before this, so kind of will just give my thoughts as I go. So I think the best way to watch a replay from a more objective point of view is going to be from a blind perspective. So I'm going to turn off the Zerg kind of view and just focus on you. Speed it up just a little bit. So this is a small thing, really small thing. To get the best efficient mining at the start of the game, I would start mining these four. The fact that you're having two probes mine these two, they have to travel the extra, so that's going to slow down your build a little bit. Not the biggest deal, but just something to keep in mind. If they're here, they would finish a little bit quicker. So yeah, this is kind of the result of the those probes mining here. If they were mining at the closer minerals, this could be up at 50 seconds, so about 4 seconds later. Again, not the biggest deal, just a small thing there. Looking for a probe scout. This is safe. Later on, I'd maybe recommend a forge scout, but this is totally okay. And it looks like you do first scout him, which is great. You see that there's an overlord here coming out. Right away, though, I would try to see the pool timing. It's not likely to be like a 4-pool or anything like that, but especially with the overlord coming out. But you definitely want to see the pool timing with this probe as soon as possible. So we'll just continue. Looks like he's making drones. That's totally normal. One thing though, while aside from this probe scout, I noticed that you set a rally from this nexus down to here. This can definitely hamper your mining a little bit. You're probably going to lose out on 100 minerals or so. Small things like that do make a difference. So definitely try to make sure to get your nexus back on rallied there. Looks like you get your nexus up first. And technically this is okay. First, getting forge nexus, yeah, this is actually fine. Never mind. This is totally okay. I would definitely try to get your cannon up as soon as possible, though. If he had sent his lings straight to you, he might have been able to kill you if you didn't get your cannon up as soon as possible. So if you're going to do a build like this, definitely get your cannon up right after your nexus. And this is something you'll hear a lot from players, is that keep your probe alive is super, super important. This is especially true for Zerg. Terran, not as much. Protoss, somewhat. But against Zerg, you really want to do your best job to keep your probe alive. I know it's difficult, especially because you're trying to build at home at the same time. So I totally get how hard that is. But it's definitely something you want to strive for. And so something I'm going to talk about is kind of like what the top players will do. I'm not saying that this is something that you need to, reach in the near future, but this is just something that you can strive toward. And so one of the things that I see pros do is that they'll keep their probe alive for even 5 minutes. So it's definitely an exercise to like get your build up and your probe scout alive that entire time. So I get it's hard, but just something to strive for. What we do see here, though, is an extractor at 230, 240. This is pretty standard at this timing. So, anything before 230, you can assume that it's going to be something crazy with super fast tech. But given that it's at this time, it's pretty standard. That's just a general rule of thumb. I think a 230 gas is pretty standard. Okay. Great. So the next thing we want to do is probably get that cannon up. We did see Zerglings. If you didn't see Zerglings, then it's okay to skip on cannon. The other thing, though, but why keeping that probe alive is so important is because you don't know how many more probes he's Zerglings he's making. if you saw that he's making like 8 more Zerglings, then you have to build like 2 cannons or something. If you saw that he's staying with 2 Zerglings, then leaving this 1 cannon up is totally legit. Just getting 1 cannon is legit. But the thing is, the problem is that you're just blind. Especially if he's going a Ling all-in build, like making 10 to 12 Zerglings. Yeah, one cannon's not going to cut it. You're just blind. So that's why keeping the probe alive is so important. You can build a 2 cannons here blind to keep you extra safe, but it's one of those examples where if you have more information, you can get away with advancing your build more quickly. Like you can get your gateway up instead of that cannon, you can get your gas after and just skimp on 1 cannon. But because we don't have information, we just don't know how to make the most optimal decision. Next thing that should be up is the gateway. Excellent. Great. Constant probe production. Great. Pylon. Excellent. Next thing that should come up is the gas. Looking for that. Lovely. Lovely. Okay. Got making a probe. Okay. Okay. So one thing to keep in mind, and I think I saw this in another game too, right around 6, when the Nexus has 690 health, 690 health, that's a point where you should transfer about 4 to 5 probes from your mineral line over to your natural. I do notice that you kind of just rally the probes from your natural to mine, which, you know, it's not quite as optimal as if you had some probes split. You can see here that these are almost fully saturated, or more so, and these are barely saturated. So kind of spreading around the saturation is going to give you a more efficient income. Okay, core, great. Zealot, great. Everything looks pretty great, good so far. Everything's right into falling right into place. More probes. Looks like we got a miniature probe bolt there. Want to continue that probe production. Okay, gateway for +1 weapons. Excellent. Right now this looks pretty in line. Constant probe production, great. Constant zealot production. Okay. This part, it's difficult. And it's more of a pie in the sky kind of ideal way to play. Right around here, if you had your probe alive, you would be able to see how many Zerglings he was making. Let's say if he makes, let's say he left it at 2 Zerglings, because that's what we last saw, and just constantly made drones, and didn't make a single Zergling. We would want to move out our zealots out to pressure and force the Zerg to make Zerglings. Why do we want to do that? It's because when Zerg has no pressure on them and they just constantly make drones, their economy is insane. They balloon their economy exponentially if they're allowed to make drones nonstop. So in order to kind of halt that, we have to force them to make Zerglings through zealot pressure. We just move our zealots toward their base, and sometimes we don't even have to commit, but when Zerg sees the zealots are moving out toward his base, they have to make Zerglings, right? And so that takes away larva that was going to be used for drones, and it's now used for Zerglings, and now that will stifle the economy that way. Like I said, you don't even have to commit fighting with these. Just the simple movement of these will draw out Zerg's attention to force Zerglings, and that's a move that is used from on the low level all the way up to the pro level. It's a very important tactic to use. So I know that's kind of a high level move, but just something to keep in mind. Okay, let's see here. One thing I wanted to look at. Pause that. So we have Stargate, great. Yeah, One of the things we want to work on is just making sure our build is crisp. And I know that, this is a hard game and builds are really hard to execute. Oh, interesting. I definitely prefer the Corsair before +1 weapons. I definitely recommend getting the Corsair out as soon as possible. Especially because with a 2:30 gas timing, mutas can come around 6:30 or 7 o'clock. So given that's the case, we want to get our Corsair count as quick as possible, especially since we're pretty blind and our probe scout died pretty early. Okay, fix the gas there. Yeah, just make sure that it's mining gas. Obviously you knew that. Yeah, being short on gas is a big problem. Protoss is already pretty starved for gas, that is, so we don't want to worsen that problem even more. We just want to make sure that gas is being mined. I do recognize the problem, and I'll teach you a trick. The problem is that when you move, let me see how you did this. Okay, good gas time though. Finally, just about the right time. Okay, so the problem is when you move the probes to the assimilator. Let me slow down this a little bit. I know what the problem is. Okay. If you move the probes while the assimilator is still white, like this, it actually does this thing where it just pauses there and doesn't mine. Okay? And I think that's what happened. In order to mitigate this, and you can credit Hawk, the S rank Zerg player, for teaching us this. If you select your probes and you press the G function and then left click on the assimilator, it actually there's actually a grace period where it'll still look to mine despite it not being completely formed yet. And if you had pressed G left click instead of right click on this assimilator, it would have actually started mining. So that's an interesting trick that you can incorporate. Okay. Yep, like I said, want that Corsair out as soon as possible. +1 weapons, not as important. But yeah, I like this. Zerglings, Zealot, just pushing out the Zerglings a little bit. Okay. I do like the constant pro production. We're missing a couple, but I think this isn't bad. Could do better, but this is not bad. What I definitely want to see, though, is a second Corsair produced right away. Because imagine if Zerg went pure muta and would hit around now. Or like close to now. You'd be stranded with one Corsair, no Corsairs queued up, and being forced in a situation where you're defending one Corsair versus 6 or 7 muta. That just sucks. So I would say queue up that second one right after. But if you scout that they have Hydras, or there's no Spire, or there's nothing else there, and it's okay to, and there's no muta threat, so to speak, then you can cancel this. Either way, having a second Corsair isn't so bad. It helps kill Overlords a little bit quicker, along with the first one. So having 2 Corsairs isn't that bad. I do think leaving out 1 Corsair is very dangerous, though. But yeah, we see that there's no Spire, so this is you kind of got away with it, so to speak. If you had gone mutas, I think you've been in really dire straits. And also, if you like had your probe still alive and you could read that he wasn't going muta, then this is valid. But because we were blind this entire time, this is a risky move to make. Okay, so what did we see? We saw that he's made a lot of sunkens. He's making 2 evolution chambers and a gas. What does this say overall? First of all, this says to me his economy is super gimped. His economy is so straddled. These sunkens are really expensive. They're insanely expensive. They're a lost drone, it's lost mining time, and it's a ton of minerals on top of it. Zerg wants to avoid making sunkens as much as possible. they kind of do it as a last resort. It's honestly a desperate move for them. So the fact that he made 3 up front, it just really hurts his own economy. These evolution chambers tell me, okay, he's investing in ground upgrades. So there's no, he's going to be really trying to mass up a strong ground army. And we see Hydras, no few Zerglings, and we saw a lair back here. This tells me he's going to go for a Hydra Lurker kind of army composition. So in which case we can be better prepared for that. As soon as I see the Hydras and no Mutas, I would cancel this +1. +1 arrow weapons is great for Mutas and fighting against Scourge, but because he has none of those, this is not going to be quite as useful. So I would have canceled this. Looks like you're at your Templar Archives at a great time. That's awesome. If you are going for a +1 weapon, leg speed, +1 zealot timing, I've gone the leg speed before the archives, but yeah, so it depends on what you're doing. This before legs is good if you're going for a DT harass, versus going for legs is better legs first is better if you are going for a +1 zealot timing. Okay, one thing is that you've pulled your Corsair a little bit too soon. Yes, it is good that you got view of the main and the natural, but typically how a Zerg will play is going to be 3 base versus 2 base. That's kind of the paradigm that you'll see in most games. So I would really love to see you kind of scout that 3rd base. I know it's going to be down here. I'd love to see what what's there as well, just so you can get that information. One, to confirm that he's playing on 3 base, but 2, if he's hiding any extra tech buildings, that's where I would want to look at also. The other thing I would suggest is viewing his Hydra count. So with your Corsair. So okay, so this one of the few times that I'm going to reveal the vision. Just want to see I want you to see what I'm seeing. Okay, so when you scouted your Corsair, you saw these 3 Hydras. Great. He has 4 Hydras here. 2 Hydras here, excuse me. 2 Hydras here, 5 Hydras total. And if you scouted this base, you would have found that he has no Hydras. You do not need to do this. This is a huge, huge waste. Each cannon is 150 minerals. That could have been a gateway. Your gateway explosion should have started right about now. Especially since in a situation where he's not making muta, part of what my approach is in a no muta situation is I need to build up as much ground army as physically possible. Because if he was going muta, then I have to delay my gateway explosion because I need to make Corsairs, I need to get this +1 up, etc., etc. But now I know he's going ground army and I'm going ground army. I need to fight mano y mano. I need to get a huge ground force, so I need to explode my gateways. One thing I think you did a wonderful job this game is your probe count. Right around 7 minutes, you should have about 42, 44 probes. And given that 730 at 43 probes, I think it is excellent. This is you have a great economy. You can support 8 gateways with this economy of 44 probes. So I would, instead of these cannons, love to have seen your gateway explosion start about now. And right around 7:30, if you're not making any more Corsairs, this is a great time to start your gateway explosion. Now, so yeah, you've seen that. Okay, so the other thing I want to show is that if your Corsair wasn't sitting here, but it was like looking at this area, you can monitor where his Hydras are coming, right? If they're coming. You, first of all, would see that he doesn't have a lot of Hydras. That's first of all. Second of all, even if he had more Hydras, you could use your Corsair and see where the Hydras are. In which case, right now, they are nowhere close to your base. So, sure, maybe down the line, you could have added a couple more cannons, but 2, 3 is enough. And these 3 cannons could have been 3 gateways. You could move up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gateways, and yeah, your unit army massing timing could have been a lot more efficient. What else do I want to say? Yep, that's the main thing here. So yeah, if he's threatening you with a huge Hydra move out, yes, maybe this would be appropriate. But one, you see that the Hydras, there's not that many of them, and they're nowhere even close to even thinking about moving to your base, so those cannons were not quite necessary. How you want to efficiently use cannons, or how you want to efficiently build your base up, is trying to get your gateways up before your cannons. Cannons are needed sometimes in really all-in-ish, last-minute ditch, like Hydra pushes that are really like all in. But given that he's like looking to go for a longer macro game, don't need it quite as much. I would get your gateways up as a priority. Like the Robo, love that. Storm, good. And the kind of the magic number here is going to be 4 Templar. That's kind of, in general, what people like to do. Okay. You can see here that okay, it is good. Yes, this is good. We want the Templars to be inside. We don't want them to be outside. If you had, like, say, 6 or so Hydras out here, you could just easily snipe them if they were sitting out here. I'm glad they're inside. Okay. Good. Corsair's still monitoring, very active. You can see he's making drones. He's ramping up his economy. Not with these Sunkens, though. That's kind of hurting him. Okay, we see that there's a couple hatches there, and hatches here scattered. So, good being proactive. Do try to keep it alive so you can continue to scout, but I like the idea. Okay, we see some Hydras here. I really am really nervous that these are out here. I find it, I'm literally sweating sitting here. I know you got these to protect them, but Hydras are fast, they have decent range. There's like 12 of them here, they could easily be sniped, so that's pretty scary. And right now, we're kind of seeing what I already can kind of predict what the downfall is. This number is way too big. I can't scroll. This number is way too big. So I do recognize it's so hard to like watch this, micro the Corsair, and like build your base all at once. But the gateway explosion was supposed to happen at 7:30. We are about 10:45 now, and we don't have all our gateways up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that were just barely got on, and then we could afford 3 more. If you had built units out of all of these constantly throughout that time, your supply, I'm not joking, your supply would have been at about 130, 140-ish. And a 130, 140 supply count versus a 70 supply Zerg, Protoss is going to win every time. You don't even need to watch your army. You just A move, 1A, 2A, 3A, click. Don't even need to watch your army, and it's just going to demolish whatever he has. So this gateway explosion is really the key of why I think the supplies are so close, and why it's gonna bite you later. So I'm just gonna fast forward because there's some things technical that I'll point out, but really that's what lost you the game. We're at 4,000 minerals now. Let's say a Dragoon, let's see. A Dragoon's 125 minerals, right? I know you have to factor in pylons and gateways also, but let's say all this money was in Dragoons. You would have 32 Dragoons. That's almost 3 groups of Dragoons. And that would destroy this. Like, You can see, can you imagine 36 Dragoons having any trouble against this at all? Even without Storm? I think it's a pretty easy fight. Even ignoring all this, ignoring that you have Storm, ignoring you have Zealots, just 36 Dragoons, if this money was spent, could kill this. I know that's a very simple, like simplified explanation, but it's the core of the problem. Okay, so these blind storms, they can be good, but they're risky. Not blind, naked storms. So generally what happens is the Templar will run up by itself, let's say to here, it'll storm here, great. Zergs that are paying attention, what they can do is that they'll take the Hydras, they'll run up really quick and snipe. They'll run out of the storm and snipe the Templar. And Templars have like a cooldown period of when they can cast a second storm. So there's a chance that this might not even be able to cast their second storm before it starts to run away. So really be careful of that. Really the proper way to cast storms or find opportunities to cast storms. And I'll point this out. So that was a pickoff as you saw. And that was a storm that didn't hit anything. So yeah, Dragoons are going to really flail in this situation because of your Cannon Sim City. There's a couple things you can do. One is to kill this egg here so that they have an entryway out of this corridor and they can form an arc here. Another one, sometimes what you have to do is just kill the cannons, and that's totally okay. They've served their purpose. You're not going to die from a Hydra bust at this point. So yeah, but again, look at the money. Look at all that money that could be an army. And yeah, I think that's really the okay. So just gonna point out. Okay, so I'm just gonna point out the ideal of what this should be. So he's picking off observers. That sucks. I get that. So we'll slow this down. This is kind of what this is supposed to look like. So you have 7 Dragoons here, but what you need is about 12 to 15. You want them to be all the way across this rectangle area, and they want to keep hitting everything as an arc. Now, normally what would happen is that these lurkers would be by themselves, and as the Dragoons are hitting the lurkers, then the Hydras would come and step up to attack the Dragoons. Your part of this dance is that while this rectangle of Dragoons is attacking, your Templars should be behind and storming the Hydras as they come up. So in this situation, you want your Templar to be ready to storm this group right here. I'm going to try to demonstrate. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so we want our Dragoons to come down. Great. Yeah, we want our... So, yeah, you can see his Templar Hydras aren't quite in position yet. Or, they were. They were already all part of this. This is kind of bad by him, because generally, the Lurkers are supposed to be naked by themselves. These Hydras are supposed to be, like, down here. Because if Protoss kind of storms the Lurkers by themselves, it's not an efficient use of Storm. So that's why the Lurkers are naked, so to speak, to kind of bait the Storm. But as soon as their Dragoons come, that's when these will trade really efficiently against Lurkers. But then as soon as when Dragoons versus Lurkers alone, that's Zerg's time to signal for their Hydras to come up and join the fray. And then when that comes, that's when you storm, like this clump right here. So we want to storm. This doesn't have quite enough energy because you were using it on Hydras from before. Yeah, you want to use it efficiently and try to get as many clumps as possible. And yeah, so he's continues contain here. Yep. And so, oh, just another brief walkthrough. So like I said, you want your dragoons to be spread out horizontally like this. And they want to be attacking in an arc toward wherever they're attacking, which is good. The observer you want to keep alive. You want to slowly inch forward and move it back as soon as you see the hydras move to snipe it. That way you want to keep it safe. I know it's really hard. It's actually one of the hardest parts about busting a lurker contain, but it's just part of the dance that you have to do. And meanwhile, trying to keep on top of your storms too. Okay, so right now looks like we might have enough of an army to bust through this. It's not quite enough for it to be an overwhelming victory, but I think we do have enough. We have 1, 2, almost 2, 3, 4 storms, followed by 8 dragoons. Actually, probably could use a few more, but I could imagine a world where we could take all of this down. So let's see what happens. Okay, that's a great storm. Gets a lot of material. Okay, on past another storm now. We have 3 more storms, so we definitely want to pass them. Okay, 1 storm down, 2 storms, 3 storms. Okay, let's see what happens. So what we want to do is have our dragoons spread out. So I take it back. I do think our dragoon count is a little bit light, but actually with these, it's actually okay. We got 8 dragoons. Yeah, it's still really light, but yeah, look at your money. Okay, so these aren't even fighting. This one's kind of messing around. These Templar are kind of in disarray. You want to kind of move your dragoons, like organize them first and have them start attacking, but then you really want to hyper focus on your Templar. Your Templar are going to be the ones to bring you true value with the storms, so you want them to you want to focus on them really hard. So he's already made a move where he's already moving his units up. This, in which case, you have to, yeah, really prioritize getting your storms out. And see that the storms are a bit delayed. I know it's on slow motion, but yeah, focusing on getting the storms out is really key. Yep, this down storm there. And you know, I think one of the things that can go wrong is that if you have your Templars grouped into one like control group and you move toward this, the Templars are going to move toward them. I would say for your 1A group, don't include Templars. Have the Dragoons start attacking, but then have the Templars in the back on like the second hotkey, and have those ready to storm as soon as they kind of start to fight. And yeah, you don't want them move them up forward too much. You just want to get them into range and start storming. As you can see, those Templar in the front died because they're part of that 1A group, and yeah, you want to avoid that. But really, I say all those technical things so you understand what to do with a bigger army, because right here, this almost 6,000 mineral bank is why you lost. So work on your gateway timing, getting 8 gates around 8 minutes or so, and then just macro. I know it's hard when you're trying to babysit the farm of your natural, but doing those things is going to be really important. Okay, second game. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Some of the things I've seen here are kind of repeated in the first game. So I'm going to turn this off. Okay, looks like we're going to go for, I remember you go for another Forge Fast Expand. Go Go for a pylon scout. Okay. Forge. Yep. Okay, cool. You, I think you noticed that the rally, so you fixed it, which is great. You notice the probe isn't here. Oh, you double scout with pylon and forge scout. Okay. I think you can get away with just a pylon scout alone. Just play with it and see what happens. Okay, you see, you have your forge up. Okay, there's a pause in your probe there. You really want to get to the base as soon as possible. You really want to see what the Zerg is doing as soon as possible. You see that this hatchery came at just started at around 2 minutes. That's about an overpool timing, and I see the pool here with the Overlord here. That's accurate. So you see that he has made a hatchery, and okay. So you want to get your Nexus up. Probe should be mining. You're missing out on some minerals. Here, I would love to see a cannon up. You already know he's made Zerglings. If he just moves straight to your base, then with these Zerglings, it would have been really problematic, but he's not, so you're kind of getting away with it. Make a gateway. Okay. I would have made a cannon like I mentioned, but it's okay as he's not moving toward your base. Okay, you want to keep your probe alive. Great. You do see his gas. I really want to see for you to try and scout if he has a third base. Either it'd be here or here. Looks like, yeah. You don't want to move too far up this way. I know you try and keep it alive, which is great. But the problem is you're really not seeing anything that he's doing. So to get out of this, what you can do is right-click a mineral so that the probe can't escape this, the two Zerglings. Again, we'd love to see a probe transfer. Looks like we got Stargate. Awesome. Really want to see constant probes. Looks like I got a break in that, but okay. Oh, somehow escaped. Great. I wasn't watching, but that's okay. Okay. So it looks like he's gonna do something similar. I do see. Okay, he's making tons of drones. This is what I'm talking about. So at this point, you have 3 zealots. He's making tons of drones. He barely any Zerglings, maybe 2 Zerglings. These zealots I've moved out here to at least force him to make some Zerglings. As soon as you cross like the halfway point and scare him enough, you can just walk back. You don't have to commit. I would really like to see some Zergling pressure there. I mean, zealot pressure there, excuse me. Okay, Stargate, would really want to see the Corsair out. Okay. Got Templar Archives. Okay. This timing, it's more so like a DT harass. Okay, I like the Corsair. Let's see what he's got. So the build is very similar. What I'm seeing is like really similar to what we saw last game. So just Hydras, Lair, another hatchery. Okay, so we did find third base. That's awesome. We know he's not going to go for like a 2 base all in. It's going to be a third base economic build. Okay, this is cool. I do like this move out. I love this move out. You see that he's barely any units. He's still making drones. He's making a creep colony. I would love for this to keep moving and try to harass. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Okay. Dang it. I would love to have you commit a little bit harder, because the reason when it's slow zealots, the reason why I say you shouldn't commit is because it's a lot harder to save your zealots if they commit when they're slow. When they're fast, they can really do some serious damage without while like escaping death or harm significantly. So they can commit while still having a margin of safety. Slow zealots can't. Once they commit, it kind of becomes a case where they have to, and you might lose them, which is unfortunate. But speed zealots, on the other hand, are different in that they can kind of run in and out, see if they can do damage, and if they can't, then they can just run back. So I would really have loved for you to kind of commit to seeing what's here and try to do some damage. Okay, so this is super risky. This is generally not done unless Zerg is doing something insane. So there's a couple. So let's see. If Zerg had, okay, if Zerg had produced hydras from all his hatcheries, this would not be safe. But if you had scouted that he's making all these sunkens, this is actually the right thing to do. The problem is that we kind of did this blind, and we're not doing it off of like information. If we had noticed and understood that he's making 6 sunkens, this means he's playing super defensive. His economy is a little bit gimped again, and because of that, he won't have the unit production to try and bust this. And that this is the right move. But the fact that we did this kind of blind means that we fell into the right situation more so. Yeah. Generally speaking, a third base is pretty risky at this point in time. And also, yeah, actually it's okay. You did scout him, you scouted his tech. If you went Muta, this obviously would not be safe. Photon cannon, okay. 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 We want, looks like you took 6 probes here. What we want to do is kind of do like, I don't know, a couple here and a couple here. We want to kind of evenly distribute. And you can see this is like, you have 3 bases, but you're mining on like half of this. So you, instead of being on 3 bases, you're like on 2.5 bases. So, yeah, your probe spread could be better, especially like here. Some of these can be distributed here and here, I think, to spread out a little bit better. Overall, you should be in a great position. Generally speaking, 3 base Protoss will always beat 3 base Zerg. Okay, so we do know that he's going mass Hydra, mass Lurker. So we want to get our Dragoons out. We want range, which is good. Get some swarms off, get some efficiency. This looks great. Again, look at these Hydras. They're super far forward. And if there's just a couple more Hydras here, they could pick off these High Templars easily without them realizing their full value. So try to keep them in the back, kind of just have them storm, run in the back, have them storm, run in the back, and keep the Dragoons forward. These Dragoons are meant to do damage, but more so they're meant to protect your Hydras, not Hydras, your Templars from your Hydras. Okay, so he didn't do any damage, he didn't bust you. This is good for you, you're getting 3 bases up. Like I said, this is more so 2.5 bases because you're so deficient on probes in this area. Okay, Corsair, you want to make sure okay. So, let me see. As you know, when you take a base, or if you take a base like this at any point, what you're saying to your opponent and to yourself is, hey, I am going to sit back, I'm going to defend, and I'll be stronger later. If, let's say, you didn't build this base or this base, and all this money that you spent on this here went into units, then what you're saying is, I want to be strong now. I want to be strong now to kill him now. But I think the first thing I did was that you said, I'm going to build a 3rd base, I'm going to macro up, I'm going to get greedy. You got away with it, excellent, great. Here, I don't understand this. You're kind of already in such a great position financially and economically. There's no reason to get this, because with 3 bases you are on excellent production. You're going to get killing potential very quickly on 3 base economy. If this was better saturated, this would be even more true. This is the equivalent to Elon Musk robbing a bank. He's already in a great position financially. He's already set up. You're already in a great position with this base. He already lost a ton of units trying to kind of mildly harass this, but he ended up behind. There's no reason to make this move here. You don't need to take this base. I would focus on saying, okay, he's on 3 base. He's going to take this 4th base. I'm going to try to shut him down. I'm going to try to shut him down economically. I can take the 4th base behind it while my army is pressuring. But with this timing of 4th, this seems to be the main focus, whereas your pressure with your army and your desire to kill or harass him, that should be your main focus. So we got 1, 2, 3 groups of units. Excellent. I would start roaming around the map, forcing him to make more army units to prevent him from making drones for this hatchery. That'd be my main objective. This is too soon. This is good eventually, but that should be the main focus. Okay, great. We run to his army and with the storm. Love that. And you get a ton of free units. Tons of free units. Okay, and it looks like you scout the 4th. And you kill this. Okay, now I'm looking to see if I can hurt this or kill this. I want to scout for his army, and what you can do is softly engage, or you can use your Corsair to scout for his army count, and see if you can engage and take a favorable fight. But you see now that you're running lower on money. Like, it's not 5k like it was last game, so this is excellent. But as you can see, you're not making any units. All the money that you're spending, you're using on cannons. These could be made into units, and you already have a huge supply advantage. I'll reinforce with this 4th group of units, or 3rd group of units. Oh, here's another problem. Your army's all spread apart. Imagine if this were together with these. It would just be this huge, insanely strong army with, if, for example, let's say if you didn't make these cannons, if you didn't care about this 4th base, you had another round of units, man, you'd be almost maxed. Well, not quite maxed. You'd be around like 160 supply. 160 supply beats a 68 supply any day of the week. So let's see what happens. This is really scary. I don't like that these Templars are exposed. I would love them here. Sure, they can cast their storms faster, but no one can cast, not even the top pro gamers, can cast 4 storms simultaneously if Zerg were to run their army this way. By moving your Templars here, it gives yourself a little bit more time to react. Okay, you see it that he has army there. Yep, got units great. Excellent. Okay. This is the biggest problem. Honestly, you have 5 goons engaging this many units. This is always going to lose. These aren't even in the fight. Okay. These aren't storming, which is okay because he's not using that many units to fight against you. But the reason why he's taking such efficient trades against you is because your army or your skirmishes aren't with really small units. Protoss wants to attack with a big army. That's when they are the strongest. That's when they have like, from a Zerg perspective, they feel like Protoss is unlimited goons, unlimited zealots, unlimited storms. But when you self-inflict this kind of situation where you trickle in army like this, well, this is good that you're gathering, but you know, this could be done earlier. But when you self-trickle like this, it makes it easy for Zerg to divide and conquer. Very easy. Zerg also wants to attack with a big group versus a small group, and he's going to surround you and get a good angle. But imagine if this group was here along with everything else. Yes, he gets a good angle, but that being said, if you have another group of units here to support and protect these Templars, you do get a lot of storms off it, but at what cost? You lost your main army, you do have this left, but he got like 5 Templar, and he's going to be on 4 bases, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I guess he didn't take this. He still is on 3 base economy. Okay. So it's not a bad situation for you. But your focus shouldn't be on taking more bases. Your focus should be on making your army and gathering your army. Looks like your macro is okay, but everything's just so spread apart. Okay, right now it's good. You have good scouting information. You're saying, okay, I'm going to contain him on 3 bases. Protoss should always win with 4 base versus 3 base Zerg. So your goal is to take your army and just ensure that his army count is like dwindling, cut smaller, etc., etc. The one thing though that kind of is convoluting the whole aspect. So, okay, aside from you taking skirmishes with little parts of your army versus bigger parts of his army, his upgrades are really good. He has max upgrades, versus your upgrades are still 001. He's going to take really super efficient fights. Upgrades matter so much for Protoss, but they matter even more for Zerg and Terran for that matter. So the fact that, yeah, you have economy, but the fact that you couldn't match his upgrade count is going to make your unit efficiency, army efficiency, suffer quite a bit. So this is what I'd love to see. You gather your army and you fight, but when he has Dark Swarm like this, it makes it hard, right? Imagine because you had this army before, and if you attacked him before he had Swarm, before his upgrades went up, like you've been in such a better position. But yeah, as soon as he swarms and you only have Dragoons, then you just need to back off. You storm the Dark Swarm and then you back off. Good. Okay, perfect. Just back off. He still doesn't have very much army, but you don't either. But you still have a decent gateway count. When they get to Hive Tech, I would try to get higher tech of my own. So I would try to incorporate Reavers to defend bases because Dark Swarm isn't immune to Reaver shots. It is immune to cannons, unfortunately. So at this point in the game, I would still see that he's on 3 base. I have 5 bases now, but the downside to this, unfortunately, is that when you're spread out like this, it makes it hard to be able to defend all these areas. Like you could attack here, you could attack here. You kind of know because you have your obs, which is good, but then you could also attack here, and your army is nowhere in position to defend. So once you're spread out like this, it makes it hard to kind of know where to defend. But I'm not sure where he intends to game plan either. So similar situation, you kind of trickled your army in. Let's watch that again. So yeah, this game, your macro is good. It's your engagements that are kind of the problem. One is that your Templars are way too forward, but mostly it's this. It's where you engage like a small chunk of your army with a big group of his, and you just trade so forward. I think you lost 2 Hydras, and you lost, what, 4 Goons, 5 Zealots, and this, Naked Templars, it's just hard. This is good if they went like Ultralist and you want to pull up Archons, but against Hydras, watch what happens. Yeah, you kill a lot of Hydras, but like Templars just die so quick. So like look at that. This just sucks. Not you, just like the situation, you know. And like lurkers, especially with like fully upgraded lurkers, just trade so efficiently against Zealots. At this point, I would want Dragoons. I know he has Dark Swarm, but he can't cast Dark Swarm everywhere. He can only cast Dark Swarm in a certain amount of places, right? So you still need Dragoons against lurkers, because Zealots against lurkers is just terrible. I kind of like the Corsairs, but it's a little too late. At this point, if you do make sure he doesn't have Overlord speed or Overlord sight, I would get Dark Templars to kill these. That would have been a very good choice. Yep, and his army just trades so efficiently. He doesn't even need that much. He just needs a couple Dark Swarms, and you only have Zealots flooding, so it's just hard. Okay, and I think that's game. So summary of this game: you're in a great economic spot, even though albeit this was quite a bit risky. It worked out because of his build. Even though, so if he does something like this, you can get away with it, but you have to make sure, you have to scout and do your due diligence to make sure he's indeed doing this. The second thing is that this was unnecessary. Once you match 3 base Zerg, you can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to focus on massing up a huge army and putting pressure on him. And I can take my 4th base behind it, but this is not the most important thing. Putting pressure on Zerg is the most important thing. You can threaten to kill him. You could straight up kill them. There's multiple points where you could, if you gather your army, all groups of your army, you could straight up kill them. And if you focus on that, that could win you the game. The other thing is, once he does engage you, you want to make sure all your army is together. Always make sure. The only exception to that is, let's say you do have a main army and you send a small group of Zealots to kill this. That's when you can split up your army a little bit. But all in all, Protoss always wants to have their armies together. If you did that, I think you would have won several times over. Alright, man. I hope that was helpful. hopefully that kind of clarified some things, and I wish you good luck in your games. If you have any other questions, let me know. Thanks.